Hello everyone, it's FarsTrapa. Today very happy to see you again for another video. Today it's the first video of my new series on the Canadian federal 2025 elections, and today I am going to summarize for you the Green Party of Canada's platforms, the Greens program and proposals for the upcoming election if ever they get elected. I made a video a couple of days earlier to present globally this concept I'm doing on my YouTube channel, so there's a couple of important disclaimers on it, so if you haven't watched it, I invite you to watch that video I'm showing you before watching the one you're currently watching. But if you don't really care, well, then it's fine. Of course, I will do this concept for all the main parties in the federal Canada. So there's the NDP, Conservative and Liberal still up to do, and I already make the block video, but only in French because of course block is only targeted to the Quebec audience. So yeah, stay focused on my channel because there will be a lot of more content coming up in the following weeks. And now we can start with the candidate presentation, and the Green Party is a special case because we have two co-leaders that are Elizabeth May and Jonathan Pedneault, so I will present both of them. At this point, it's not known if ever they get elected who will be the Prime Minister, but we know at least that Jonathan Pedneault will be the person representing the Green Party for the upcoming debate on CBC. So let's start with Elizabeth May, the older chief who was born on June 9, 1954 in Hartford, Connecticut, USA, a graduate in law from Dalhousie University. She initially worked as a lawyer specializing in environmental law. She served as executive director of the environmental organization Sierra Club. In 2006, she became the leader of the Green Party of Canada. In 2011, she became the first federal MP elected under the Green Party banner. She stepped down as party leader in 2019, but resumed the position in November 2022. Now for Jonathan Pedneault, he was born on April 19, 1990 in Longueuil, Quebec. Deeply committed to humanitarian causes from a young age, he went to Sudan to film a documentary for CBC. He produced reports from Somalia, Yemen, Ethiopia and Israel, and later became a humanitarian activist for Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. In 2022, he ran with Elizabeth May as co-leader of the Green Party of Canada, a role that was officially confirmed only in February 2025. So now that we've done the candidate presentation, we will move on to the main points of their programs. But before that, I just wanted to warn you of a special situation here, because as you maybe know, the Green Party still didn't officially unveil the entirety of their platform, of their program, but I really need to advance. You know, the election is in exactly 2 weeks, so I just can't wait anymore. Only the bloc has unveiled fully their platform for now, so I needed to make the videos, I needed to move on, so I decided to go with the Green Party this week, because on their website there's already a healthy amount of information they gave us. So yeah, it was enough to make a video. And I also used the help of the Promise Tracker website on CBC to see what they proposed, but it will be a bit less complete and in detail than I would have liked. But yeah, it is what it is, and I think the video is still pretty relevant and presents most of the important points of this party. So let's start with the first proposal, which is about housing. And this is very vague, but the Green Party promises to do the largest public housing construction program since the 1970s. They also want to make rules to ensure that homes built with public money stay permanently affordable. They want to prevent corporations from buying single-family homes. And they also want to eliminate tax advantages for real estate investment trusts. Secondly, the GPC wants to transform our democracy, first with a modification of the electoral system to move on to a proportional representation. And if you are interested in concretely how those proportional representation works versus first past the post like we have currently, I made 2 very detailed videos about that voting system change, but it's in French, so if you can understand French, it's a really complete, really good video I made about it. But for those who aren't particularly interested, who doesn't speak French, very simply, a proportional representation is just a way for the election to be more fair, to give the right amount of seats for each party throughout the country, because currently the system is a little bit broken. You can have a high number of votes across the country, but a relatively smaller amount of seats in the parliament. So proportional representation would make things a little bit more equal for everyone. Secondly, that one is really more simple. The GPC also wants to lower the voting age to 16, so people starting from 16 would be able to vote in the federal Canada. And lastly, they want to reinstall the per vote subsidy, which was a funding for small parties in order for them to be better suited to fight with the bigger parties. Third proposal, let's talk about the US relations the Green Party of Canada wants us to have. So firstly, they want to ban Trump and key US leaders from traveling to Canada, including in large events like the G7. Then they also want to strengthen our border patrols and surveillance with the United States. They want to suspend the F-35 acquisition process because, like you know, the F-35 is an American-made jet that Canada ordered for our Air Force. But of course, as it is an important American asset, the Green Party of Canada think it would be better to purchase maybe European planes coming from a country that doesn't threaten us. Then they also want to suspend the Safe Third Country Agreement with the United States, which basically was an agreement about immigration between Canada and USA. And lastly, they want to suspend subsidies to Canadian companies with a majority owned by US interests. Let's talk about the Greens' proposal on the international stage. So first, they want to create a common diplomatic and economic front with other democracies around the world, such as the European Union, the UK, Australia, and other countries. They promise to stop arms sales to countries that do not respect human rights. So again, it's really vague, but it gives you an idea of what the Greens stand for. They also want to increase international aid commitment and funding because, like you know, the United States cancelled most of their international aid, so the Greens want Canada to step up. And lastly, they want to recognize the Palestinian state as an official country. 5, let's talk about May's proposition for defense. And first, she wants to create indigenous-led units to protect our sovereignty in the northern, so in the Arctic region. She also wants more patrols and better equipment in the Arctic and on the coasts. She wants to strengthen our cyber defenses, increase artillery and ammunition production and capacity, as well as creating a strategic ammunition reserve for Canada. And lastly, she proposes to join the Type 212 CD submarine program, which is currently led by Norway and Germany. Now, let's talk about the healthcare propositions of Elizabeth May. So, first of all, she wants an universal pharmacare plan for every Canadian to have free access to their necessary medicine. She also wants to expand dental care for more people, so more people than currently can get the benefits from this program. She also wants the healthcare to cover more of the mental health treatment. And she also promises to expand paid leaves to cover care for the elderly, miscarriage, and other family situations. So globally increase the number of cases where paid leave would be given. 7. Let's talk about Ms. May's stances on national sovereignty. So first of all, and a very important one, she promises to create 100,000 jobs with the creation also of the National Civil Defense Corps, which will be responsible for addressing infrastructure needs, natural disasters, and foreign threats. She wants to create strategic reserves of Canadian resources such as timber, steel, aluminum, etc. She wants to issue Saving Canada bonds so the Canadians would be able to invest on Canada's sovereignty. She wants to create a east-west power grid across the country so we would be able to share our energy within our country more efficiently. At last, she wants a multi-billion investment fund to encourage Canadian entrepreneurship. 8. Let's talk about GP's proposal on helping people with disabilities. So first, he wants to implement a national fund to help people with disabilities to buy essential tools like wheelchairs, communication devices, etc. He wants to fix the disability tax credit to make it easier and more accessible. And finally, he wants to fully fund the Canada Disability Benefits. At 9, Jonathan Pedneault wants to fight the big polluters, first by stopping all the new fossil fuel projects across the country. He also wants to stop giving public money to oil and gas companies. He promises stricter limits on pollution. And lastly, he wants to require companies to prove they have real plans to address climate change. The 10th and last proposal, Mr. Pedneault wants more social equality. That starts with universal and affordable childcare, so it wouldn't be totally free, but all the Canadians would have access to cheap care for their young kids. He wants also to make higher education, so college and university, free in Canada. He wants to introduce a guaranteed minimum income for every Canadian, so nobody lives in extreme poverty. And for the last one, he wants to eliminate federal income tax on incomes under $40,000. So what that would mean is that the first step of the federal tax would start at $40,000 instead of the $15,000 that is currently in place right now. To end the video, I will show you a couple of flash proposals that I found interesting, that I think could be useful for you, but didn't make the list of the 10 main proposals. So first, the Greens wants to create a youth climate corps to help communities cope with climate change and the natural disasters that comes with it. They want to create a national emergency response agency. They want to increase public funding for Canadian media. They want to make social media companies accountable for published content. They promise to train and hire more health professionals. They want to end contracts with expensive consulting firms. And lastly but not leastly, they want to implement all the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. It's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If that's the case, I remind you again that I will be also doing this format for these 3 other parties in this upcoming federal election in Canada. I have already made the blog video, so if it interests you, go check it. And yeah, I think it's the end. So I say see you again for new videos, and bye everyone. It was FarsTrapa. Ciao.